My name is Mary Marete. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Agricultural and Extension Education. Before I started my PhD program, I was working as an extension worker in Kenya in the Ministry of Agriculture for a long time with women groups as well as farmer groups. There was a lot of indigenous knowledge, and a vivid example is from two people who are having like a neighborhood kind of disputes. Farmers who are not supposed to grow anything at the boundary, and this farmer grew gravelia at the boundary with the neighbor. So the neighbor decided he's going to fight the neighbor with a tree that consumes a lot of water. But this neighbor didn't know actually the way the tree works. He just knew that once he plants this tree, it's going to finish the gravelia. So he planted this tree and the gravelia died almost in a week. So as an extension agent, I learned that there's a lot that the neighbors, the farmers knew that I could learn from, and that I needed to listen to them more and learn from their knowledge, because when I went back to the books, I discovered that this tree actually draws out a lot of water, and there's no way the gravelia would have survived under those conditions. So yeah, that was quite a learning moment for me.
My name is David Ader. I am a grad student in rural sociology and demography. For my dissertation, my interests actually are about indigenous populations, specifically in Chile is where I'm working. I was talking one day to a retired man, he's a very old Mapuche man, and he actually lived on the outskirts of Santiago, which is the largest city in Chile. And he said, we were talking about these issues, things I'm trying to sort of deal with, questions of what does it mean to be poor as an indigenous person? Is it the same as being poor in the city? Is it the same as being poor for other Chilean? And what, so how do people survive, etc. And he said to me, and he said, you know, the government comes in and tells us how we measure poverty, who's poor, what all these things are supposed to be good and what are supposed to be bad. And he said, and I just don't think that's fair because we don't have a voice in it. And he said to me, I have a grandson who lives in Santiago, who went to university, who's now has a great job, makes a lot of money. And so by all of these income measurements, he's not poor, but he's stressed out all of the time. He never sees his wife and kids. He's going to the doctor to get antidepressants, to get anti-anxiety medication because he's just so stressed out for all the different things. And he said, so maybe he has income, but does that mean he's necessarily has a good quality of life? And his argument was no. And this old man, he said, no. When I was a kid, I grew up in the southern rural areas. I lived in a ruca, which is like a grass and wood built house, traditional style Mapuche house. We had our forests, our communal lands. I could travel whenever and wherever I wanted. We took care of our environment. We took care of our forests. We farmed, and telling me about his life, and then him saying, but I was poor, and that's what the government decided I was, and that's what the problems were, is that we were poor. My community was poor, and so somehow all these social programs and we have to do these things because of the government, etc. I said, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's not fair. Who's to decide what is poor and what isn't? And so that was precisely kind of the things that I was dealing with. What does it mean for a group of people who are ostracized from the market economy, who are making ends meet in a different way, through an informal economy, through bartering, through trading agricultural products, for having extended kin and kinship relationships, people in the city versus the rural areas, all these interactions that in a different lifestyle, or adapting to a lifestyle, a sort of modern globalized lifestyle, that's sort of the thing that we're looking at, what I'm trying to look at.
I'm Mary Chandy Vayaliparampil. I'm a fifth-year doctoral student at Penn State, doing a dual title in educational theory and policy and comparative and international education. The traditional Indian school system would be known as the Gurukul system, which was in practice, I would believe, all the way until the British. So their main aim in terms of educating the Indian elite was just to prepare them for office, clerical, accounting kind of jobs. Whereas the purpose of education in India was not just that. It's to prepare you for life, preparing you in subjects such as math, science, but also preparing you for life in terms of relationships. How do you work out, deal with relationships, not just in your immediate family but also society. Agriculture was another aspect. How do you get to be self-sufficient, grow your own food, make your own house? These are all skills that students got through the Gurukul system, and they actually did all that. And you had local, very decentralized local centers within the community. Rather than a more centralized kind of system that made its appearance along with the British. So it's just a means to an end, and it's not the end in itself, because it's about preparing you for life, and it prepares you for every aspect of life and not just for that little job.
I'm Lindsay Usher. I'm a second-year master's/PhD student here at Penn State. I am studying tourism and poverty alleviation and community development. A lot of people tend to think that with people in developing countries that and indigenous groups in these countries, they don't know anything, and that's why there's this common misbelief that they don't have any knowledge, and so like already developed countries need to go and teach them, but that's not right. And so I think that's why I think I don't know if they knew about projects that people were doing, or if they knew people that could come in and talk about, their traditions and medicinal plants and that sort of thing, they would see that, it's a wealth of knowledge, and that's what, we need to learn from each other to improve lives and that sort of thing, and not, it's definitely not a one-way street.